We are recording.
All right, so I'm here with some of my colleagues, just doing a really quick roundtable discussion of whether they've used any sort of lecture capture or whether they would do it. So let's just get to the conversation.
Sure.
And I'll flip this around.
Okay.
All right, guys, so I've got 3 of my colleagues here, just sitting in the lunch table having a conversation. So my first question is, have you ever recorded your lectures for students' future use? Peter, have you?
I haven't recorded them for future use, no, but I have recorded my lectures for my own use for doing university courses with.
Right.
And when I started, we were doing a mentoring program, so I would record it, sit down with my mentor and review, and you can learn which crutches that you're relying on and things like that.
Which I guess if you were doing recorded lectures for your students to use, you could still use them that way too.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
What about you, Amy? Have you ever done something like that?
I have never recorded my lectures
Okay.
for any use.
Never have done it. Okay,
No.
let me see what Patrick says. Patrick, have you ever done it?
I've never done it.
No?
Students have attempted to do it,
Record it for themselves.
and it's been a controversial issue.
Yeah, okay, which I get.
So that's
All right.
part of it.
So if you had the training and you could record your lectures and you had control over the product, would you record lectures to put up on Brightspace or any learning management system for your students' future use, Patrick?
I would, most definitely.
You
I
would?
have no problem with that. I have taught in front of audiences, so not besides my students.
And you have no
Other-
concern about whether it would impact student grades or attendance? Or...
I have concerns about that, but personally, just for me doing it for the benefit of the online learner as well,
Yeah,
I would have no problem.
no problem. Okay, Amy, what do you think?
I would have no problem doing it, but I would have concern about student attendance. I
Mhm.
would think that they would use the online video instead of coming to class.
Okay, yeah.
So that
Common
would be my concern, so it might affect the class dynamic.
Yeah, sure. Okay. And Peter, what about you?
I would love to do it, and I'm in a lucky scenario where I would like to do the lecture and then record it, put it up onto Brightspace or something like that, so that the students can use it for refreshers for studying for exams. Some students whose English is not their first language
Sure.
can use that to say, something, I missed that. I was hesitant to raise my hand and say, I didn't quite get that point.
Yeah.
So I can see that, and I'm lucky in the fact that the students kind of have to be in most of my courses, because typically in a lecture I'll break out and do something hands-on.
Right.
So if you're only attending or you're only taking these lectures by going online, you're missing that hands-on component.
Right.
So it would be more, I don't know whether a remedial
Yeah.
effort
Yeah.
or so, but I think it would be valuable to have the content up there.
And you're teaching in IT,
Yes.
and I should make the note that Amy teaches in
Early
early childhood.
childhood.
So you probably do a fair amount of group work in the
I
classroom
do
as
a
well.
lot of group work and a lot of hands-on activities. So just class lectures being taped and
Yeah.
using that as your learning source would not be effective.
Wouldn't be enough.
No.
Yeah, because you'd lose that whole classroom
But like
dynamic.
Peter, we have a lot of international students that have joined our students, so they could benefit from going back and seeing the lectures again.
Sure.
And trying to make sense of things they may not have understood, or
Right.
they didn't quite ask the questions, so maybe it can reaffirm things for them.
Okay. And Patrick, you've taught both in the classroom and online.
And I've taught sciences and early childhood, and I see the benefit of hands-on.
Sure.
Especially when I was teaching math. So I do agree that for the second language learner,
Yeah.
yeah, it would be really beneficial to have that review and to go over, as someone who's actually studied in another language,
Yeah.
I understand how much concentration it
Sure,
requires
of
and
course.
how difficult it is to concentrate for a whole class, to have that tape to go back to or that video to go back to.
Sure.
Things.
Those were the main questions I was going to ask you guys. Have anything that you want to add that I haven't touched on?
I can see doing some of the topics that I teach and putting all of the content up. However, as an educator who's working full-time in the business, we need the time to do that. So a couple of things we need is you need time budgeted so that you can do that production. And especially if it's going to be this topic is going to be up there for the next 2 or 3 years. So you want it to be professional. that means that we need time in order to do that. You need the resources, equipment in order to do that, and you need the training.
Yeah.
Because we're not all producers. There are some people who are exceptionally good at production with, for example, I know that you're using an Apple. I'm not an Apple guy, but I've got friends of mine who have done picture books and videos, etc., with Apples that are amazing.
Yeah.
I don't have that skill set.
Right.
So we have to remember as educators and bosses, if you're listening, we need to budget that too. You can't just say, carry your normal workload and be a video producer at the same time. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and that's certainly something that I sort of put out as my problem statement was, how do I do this and do it without losing my afterlife, my life outside
that's
of work,
it.
right?
You know, and it's like any other skill. You get better the more that you do it, but it helps to have some level of training beforehand.
Right.
We have a former CBC
I know,
executive producer, etc., who just came in the room.
I noticed. Here's our former CBC person who is now an instructor. Deborah, do you want to weigh in real quickly on, have you ever recorded your lectures for student use later?
Yes.
And did you like it? Was it a good thing?
I did it once. Because I used my professional voice, my students didn't recognize me.
Oh.
I did it late at night.
So you didn't do it while you were live lecturing.
No.
It was a
I did
prepared
it
thing
ahead.
after. Okay.
I did it because it was a hard chapter
Yeah.
that I knew that they would interrupt with a lot of questions, which would get us off track.
Okay.
So I used it as a way of recording it so that it was a seamless lecture that was focused, and so that they could watch it in, I think it took about 40 minutes. So they could watch it in chunks and stop it when they needed to.
Sure.
And replay it.
Yeah.
And I knew, because it was marketing research.
Okay.
So it was like math.
So
and that's what they struggle with.
So if you had the capability, the
Yes.
technology and some training,
Yes.
would you routinely record your live lectures to put up on Brightspace for students to watch later?
No.
No? Why not?
I'd be afraid of what I say.
You'd be afraid of what you'd say,
That's not-
okay?
that's not
Valid point. Valid point.
Because I'm very, when I worked in radio, one of the things I liked about working in radio is when you make a mistake, goes out into the ether and it's not recorded.
Right.
And you don't live with your mistakes.
Yeah.
So that growth mindset is very easy to do.
Right. Okay.
Sorry,
Did you
you
think
didn't
about
make the same
mistakes?
mistakes I made.
So, whereas I think if it was recorded, if everything was recorded, I would dwell on my mistakes more.
Okay. All right.
But I liked it, and so that's when, by pre-recording it,
Yes.
I could make mistakes and edit them.
Yeah.
I found it took a long time.
Yeah.
But now, unless they change the chapter, I now have
You've
that
got
one in the
it.
bag.
Yeah, of course. But it is labor intensive to do that initially for sure. Okay.
What's this for?
I'll tell you in just one
Okay.
second. Thank you everyone for your input.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye. Nice to meet you all.